I talked to Wayne the other day, and he was so choked up talking to me. He is a patriot. He loves Canada. He never gave up his Canadian passport. So, folks, give the guy a break.
That was Ontario Premier Doug Ford in early March, speaking about hockey legend Wayne Gretzky, the man who won 4 Stanley Cups during the dynasty years of the Edmonton Oilers, the same man who was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame immediately after his retirement, surpassing the minimum 3-year waiting period. So how did the Great One fall from Canadian grace so rapidly and publicly? That's today's conversation on Follow the Lead podcast. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Valerie McLaughlin. When people think of Canadian hockey, the first person who likely enters their mind is Wayne Gretzky. If you're a Canadian kid of the 80s like I was, Mr. Gretzky likely loomed larger than life in your imagination. I know he did in my mind. In my household, it was the Toronto Maple Leafs who took center stage Saturday nights on our brown cabinet television. However, every kid in Canada knew who Gretzky was. And if you don't know what a cabinet television is, look for images on Google. They were huge and heavy. Ours didn't have a remote control. I was the remote control from my parents. So you'd have to get up, schlep to the television, and turn the knob to the requested channel. And if you had static, you had to readjust the rabbit ears. It was an entire process. When I remember the 80s, I remember a lot of brown. There was a lot of brown. It was a brown kind of decade. Okay, I digress. Let me get back on track. For those who aren't familiar with Wayne Gretzky, I'll give you a quick profile. Mr. Gretzky was born in 1961 in Brantford, Ontario. He grew up playing hockey on his backyard rink. He started his NHL career with the newly formed Edmonton Oilers, helping the franchise win 4 Stanley Cups before he was traded to the Los Angeles Kings in 1988. When the trade to LA was announced that year, Canadians were devastated. The country entered a collective mourning that his hockey hero was leaving Alberta for sunny California. Mr. Gretzky wouldn't return home to play for any Canadian NHL team before he ended his career in 1999. He played for 20 seasons in the NHL. When he left the league that year, Mr. Gretzky held 61 NHL records. Named the Great One, his iconic 99 jersey number was retired league-wide in the year 2000. Canada loved Wayne Gretzky. He was the Great One, a small Ontario kid who played backyard hockey on his ice rink and rocketed to the top of Canadian hockey legends. But his star started to dip with some Canadians when a photograph of Mr. Gretzky with President Donald Trump circulated soon after the president won his second term. Some Canadians raised their eyebrows, and eyebrows were raised again when Mr. Gretzky was present during the president's inauguration on January the 20th. When the president ramped up his bombastic rhetoric about making Canada a 51st state, along with the tariffs, Canadians soon turned their ire towards Mr. Gretzky, who remained silent on the issue. But this ire seemingly turned into deep anger during the Four Nations hockey tournament. Replacing the NHL All-Star Game, the Four Nations consisted of 4 teams: Canada, United States, Sweden, and Finland, all consisting of NHL players. The teams competed in a round-robin tournament, with the top 2 teams facing off in a final game. That final game happened to be between Canada and the United States. This happened at the height of Canadians booing the American anthem during games in Montreal. Tensions were high among Canadians, angry about the president's aim of weakening Canada's economy through tariffs, making it more susceptible to American influence in it becoming a state. During that final game in Boston, Mr. Gretzky, who was named the honorary Canadian captain, came out at the American bench without wearing his Canadian jersey, giving the U.S. team a thumbs up. He reportedly gave Team Canada red hats that said, "Be great." After Canada's win, Canadians flung down their gloves and went after Mr. Gretzky. Some even went as far as calling him a traitor to a country who once considered him a hero. When this was all playing out, I didn't realize how truly angry Canadians were at Mr. Gretzky until I waded into a comment section of a Facebook post on a page called Meanwhile in Canada. The March 4th post stated, quote, "Friends in Ontario tell me Gretzky's wine is not selling," unquote. Mr. Gretzky has a line of wine and spirits, and the estate featuring his name is located on Niagara-on-the-Lake in southern Ontario. The anger in the comment section was palpable. I'll read you some of the posts so you can get a better understanding of what Canadians were saying about Mr. Gretzky and his wine at the time. And these comments are likely more the nicer comments that I found. Some of them weren't so nice. One person wrote, "We have bought it in the past, and if I had some now, I would dump it down the drain." Another post stated, "From my hockey hero to zero, we obviously don't share the same values. I can't understand his support of someone who wants to take over Canada. Shame on you, Wayne." Another poster wrote, "Still can't believe it. All my life he's been a hero of mine. Now I'm just confused about Gretzky." And finally, Janet Gretzky said, "We broke his heart. I think I heard 1,000 hearts breaking on this side of the border." Janet, who is Mr. Gretzky's wife, has stated on Instagram that her husband's heart has been broken from reading and seeing the mean comments made by Canadians. Even President Trump has talked about Mr. Gretzky. In a Rambling Truth social post on February the 26th, Mr. Trump called the hockey player a great guy and announced that he was making him a free agent because he didn't want Canadians talking badly about him. Quote, "Wayne is my friend and he wants to make me happy and is therefore somewhat low-key about Canada remaining a separate country rather than becoming a cherished and beautiful 51st state, paying much lower taxes, a free and powerful military, no tariffs, and having a booming economy," unquote. While it has been more than a month since the Four Nation finals, Canadians remain angry. Late last week, Mr. Gretzky's statue outside the arena where the Edmonton Oilers now call home was smeared with feces. Many hockey fans have condemned the vandalism. Mr. Gretzky has remained silent on the controversy that now surrounds him, and it remains to be seen how this will impact Wayne Gretzky's legacy in Canada. That's it for this episode. I know it was a short one, but I thought I would do an episode about Wayne Gretzky and how Canadians view him. I think there's still a lot of Canadians who consider him the great one because he did earn that title in a lot of ways. But I think there's sadness and disappointment that there's been a sense of quietness coming from Mr. Gretzky when it comes to the 51st state issue. If you have any thoughts about Wayne Gretzky or any other subjects discussed on the podcast, feel free to drop us a line at followtheleadpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now.